Tron Ares is now in theaters, and I am contractually obligated when talking about a Tron movie to have music like this. This video is brought to you by Mando. Go to shopmando.com and use promo code Dan for a special offer, and stay tuned after the review for more info. Hello everybody, I'm Dan Murrell here with my review for Tron Ares, which rolled out into theaters yesterday afternoon. This movie has had a long journey to the screen. It's been in development as Tron Ares for about 10 years. This version, the final version, is directed by Joachim Ronning, who also directed Maleficent, Mistress of Evil, and Pirates of the Caribbean, Dead Men Tell No Tales for Disney. It is written by Jesse Wugetow, whose most recent screen credit as a writer was on Daredevil Born Again, also for Disney, which continues the studio's trend of working with writers and directors that they are familiar with, even if the past results of working with those writers and directors has been, let's say, mediocrity. Tron Ares is not a direct follow-up to the last Tron film, Tron Legacy, though it does reference events in that film. Instead, it mostly features new characters, including Ares, played by Jared Leto, a program developed by Dillinger Systems, rivals to our hero company Incom, to be the perfect digital soldier, lethally effective and completely expendable. Dillinger Systems is run by the grandson of David Warner's character in the original Tron. He's played by Evan Peters, and as is required in any franchise film when you have a character who can't come back for a sequel, David Warner is present in the movie in the form of an oil painting. Now in charge of Incom is Greta Lee's Eve Kim, who's taken on the legacy of Jeff Bridges' Kevin Flynn to use technology for good. As is standard in most of today's mass market, big budget blockbusters, the race in this film is to get the thing. You know, there's always the thing that you have to get. In this case, the thing is a permanence code that will allow digital assets from the virtual world of the grid to exist permanently in our physical reality. But as you can imagine, when the grid is packed with lethal soldiers, bringing anything into our world will lead to complications, and that's exactly what happens, as the battle for the future of both programs and humanity now takes place in our world, not the digital one. Full disclosure, I've never been a huge fan of Tron. Not that I disliked the franchise, but I didn't really grow up with the first movie. I'd never actually seen Tron Legacy until this week when I decided to watch both movies. Rewatching the first Tron, I kind of thought what I thought the first time I saw it, which is that it is a quaint, somewhat impressive time capsule of what visual effects were in the early 1980s. And then watching Tron Legacy for the first time, I thought that it was good enough, elevated by the one thing that everybody mentions when they talk about Tron Legacy, the amazing score from Daft Punk. But what both movies I think have over this one is that even though the original Tron had a sequel, Tron Legacy of course was a sequel, both of those movies functioned on their own. Even if they were building off of the world or establishing a new world, they felt like complete movies in and of themselves. Whereas Tron Ares' main goal really just seems to be setting up other sequels. And I know you've heard me say this before, it's because movies keep on doing it. Anything other than franchise building, like an interesting story or compelling characters in any kind, really takes a back seat. And I think that this, more than anything, is what is hurting and some would say killing big budget filmmaking. It's not just that fewer and fewer people are going to the movies, it's that studios more and more, and Disney is especially guilty of this, prioritize world building over storytelling, whether it's the third movie or the 13th movie in a series. Now, what Tron Ares does absolutely have going for it, much like Tron Legacy, is its score. The music from Nine Inch Nails is fantastic. And for the first half hour of the movie or so, the movie was able to kind of get me into the groove. I was listening to this music, I was watching the really cool visuals, the cinematography, the visual effects in this movie are great. And I was like, yeah, all right, this movie's pretty good. But as the movie went on, I realized that all it really had to offer was vibes. I lost interest, and that's not to take away from the musical talents of Atticus Ross and Trent Reznor. They're great, but they can only take a movie so far. The Social Network is a great movie, not just because of their score, but also because of the writing and the characters and the way that everything is presented, and you don't have that with Tron Ares. It's all surface level. Speaking of The Social Network, Tron Ares didn't just recruit that movie's composers, it also has its cinematographer, Jeff Cronenweth, who's done multiple movies with David Fincher, not just Social Network, but movies like Fight Club and Gone Girl. And that means that this movie looks great and the music sounds great, but it's all just a fancy candy wrapper hiding some pretty bland chocolate underneath. I mean, this is discount chocolate in Willy Wonka packaging. Tron Ares is one of those movies that isn't necessarily bad, it's just kind of there. And the music really does a lot of the lifting and papers over some of those cracks. If you were to put just a bland traditional Hollywood score over the same visuals, I think that my opinion and a lot of people's opinion of this movie would be much, much lower. What's frustrating is that the idea behind the movie is actually kind of good. I like the idea of Ares, a program that follows the Tron tradition of eventually beginning to grow beyond its commands, to question the user and determine its own actions. Jared Leto is hated for a variety of reasons, many of them legitimate, but he does okay with his performance when Ares is given something interesting to do other than pose and do cool things in slow motion. Greta Lee gives a heartfelt performance in the moments where we see behind her character and what her motivations are, but that is a small slice of her screen time. The rest of it is spent running from light cycles and recognizers. The rest of the cast is filled out by talented actors in cliche parts. Evan Peters is the desperate and morally depraved rival CEO. Gillian Anderson is the disapproving mother. Jodie Turner-Smith is Athena, the unquestionably loyal program turned enforcer. She does what she can. Cameron Monaghan even shows up for a couple of minutes, and I'm pretty sure that his role was as the character who had a much bigger part in the movie until it was cut out. And of course, there's Jeff Bridges, who returns as Kevin Flynn, though his part is far less crucial and significant than it was in Tron Legacy. His inclusion is a piece of what's an overall bigger section of fan service that I think original Tron fans will like, but it just kind of confused me a little bit. I thought that I knew, having just rewatched the last two movies, what the grid was and where it was and what its relationship was with our world, but this movie seems to kind of mix it up, and I just don't think it was explained very well. Maybe I lost some details in the dialogue where I was too busy listening to the music, but I think it's more likely that the script was written around the set pieces instead of the set pieces being put into a more cohesive script, and I think it at least for me, just muddled the world up for me. As for how this movie ties into the other films, and specifically Tron Legacy, there are some references here or there, but that's pretty much explicitly left for the next movie in the Tron series. It feels kind of like Tron Ares is holding the franchise continuity hostage and saying, yeah, see, if you don't show up for this one, you'll never see these characters again. This movie isn't a story. It is one chapter of a story that people want to build, which you can do if you make the entire movie its own thing. I have said this exact same thing from this exact same chair over and over and over again, and I feel like a broken record, but it's because the studios, many of them, keep releasing the same kind of movie. And it's not, again, like Lord of the Rings, which was 3 different parts, but every single movie felt satisfying on its own. Instead, this is like a teaser for what the franchise might be, but not an interesting movie on its own terms. Tron Ares has a budget reported at around $180 million, and if it's a financial disappointment, the fingers are going to be pointed at the audience once again for not showing up, but that finger is also rarely pointed back at the studios for deciding to leave breadcrumbs of an actual story instead of giving the audience a real story. The studios leave us these breadcrumbs on the promise of a full meal, and then they want us to pay just for the crumbs, and then they get angry because the audience has caught on and said like, hey, maybe I don't want these crumbs anymore. Maybe you should start serving me a meal again. Tron Ares is not a meal. It's barely an appetizer, although it is an appetizer, like a little donut or something that is glazed with a very delicious covering of music and visual aesthetics. I didn't love Tron Ares, I didn't like it a whole lot, but I didn't hate Tron Ares or dislike it a whole lot. It's just kind of bleh. And so on my personal scale, I'm giving it a rating of it's fine solely because it looks great and it sounds great. And I think that there is some value to seeing this movie on a big screen with a great projector and a great sound system. It was a fun experience in that aspect for me, which is why I'm even recommending it at all. My biggest piece of advice would be treat this movie like a concert. Just think, I'm not going to go see a movie. I'm going to see a visual concert for the new music from Nine Inch Nails. I think that you might have a much better time. So that's what I think about Tron Ares. Before we go though, I want to thank the sponsor for this video, Mando. Fall's here, but if you think the dropping temperatures mean that you don't have to worry about smelling great, you've got another thing coming. You may not be able to wear a sweater all year, but I am a sweater all year. October can still pack some heat down here in the South. Plus, put me in a Thanksgiving game of pickup football, and I'm drenched like it's the middle of July. But there's a solution, and it is my old pal Mando. I'm so happy to have them back on board because Mando is something that I use every single day. I use it so much, I keep having to ask them to send me more to make sure I'm stocked up. This is a picture of the actual Mando drawer in my bathroom. Mando isn't a deodorant that masks bad odors, it prevents bad odors before they start, controlling sweat and odor for 72 hours. It has clinical strength, it's twice as better at controlling sweat than the standard, and Mando uses premium ingredients like mandelic acid to keep you dry and smelling your best. I use Mando in the shower, I use the spray-on, I use the stick deodorant, and I've got Mando wipes on hand in case I feel like I need some in between freshening up. And I can honestly say that I don't worry about how I'm smelling, no matter how much I might be sweating. Mando's starter pack is perfect for new customers. It comes with a solid stick deodorant, cream tube deodorant, 2 free products of your choice, like a mini body wash and deodorant wipes, and free shipping. As a special offer for listeners and viewers of the show, new customers get 20% off site-wide with our exclusive code. You can use code DAN, D-A-N, at shopmando.com for 20% off site-wide plus free shipping. That's shopmando.com. Please support the show and tell them that I sent you. Mando's got you covered with deodorant plus sweat control. Say goodbye to sweat stains and hello to long-lasting freshness. Thanks to Mando for sponsoring this video, and thank you for watching. Be sure to stay tuned right here for the latest in movie news, reviews, box office, and more. Until next time, stay safe, and I'll see you then. Bye.